Hi everybody and welcome back to Main Mission Hope. I'm so glad you're here today, and in this episode I want to take you on a journey through one of the most pivotal points in Christian history, the Protestant Reformation, and more specifically how the Catholic Church responded to it. If you're new to Christianity or returning after some time away, you might have heard about the Reformation but aren't sure what it meant for the Church or why it still matters today. Don't worry though, I'm here to walk you through it step by step. The Reformation was a time of deep questioning and yes, division. But it was also a moment when the Catholic Church was called to look inward, to reflect, and to renew itself in ways that still inspire hope for us today. Christianity at its heart offers hope to those who feel lost or broken, and the Church's response to the Reformation shows us that even in times of crisis, renewal is possible. So let's explore this together and see what lessons we can draw for our own spiritual journeys. First, a quick overview. The Protestant Reformation began in 1517 when a monk named Martin Luther nailed his 95 theses to a church door in Germany. He was protesting against practices like the sales of indulgences, essentially, although it is a little bit more complicated than this, but essentially paying money to reduce punishment for sins. Luther and other reformers like John Calvin also challenged the church authority, the role of the Pope, and certain doctrines. Their ideas spread quickly, leading to the birth of Protestantism and the major split in Christianity. But here's the thing. The Reformation wasn't just a challenge from outside. It was a wake-up call for the Catholic Church to address real issues: corruption, nepotism, and the behaviour of some priests and popes. And to its credit, the Church didn't ignore these criticisms. Instead, it took specific measures to reform itself, especially around the sale of indulgences, nepotism, and the conduct of its leaders. So let's look at what the Church did. The most significant step was the Council of Trent, which met between 1545 and 1563. This was a gathering of bishops and church leaders from across the world to tackle the issues raised by the Protestants. It was a turning point. One major issue was the sale of indulgences. The council condemned the abuse of indulgences, selling them for a profit, but upheld their spiritual value when granted for genuine reasons, like prayer or charity. To enforce this, the Church tightened oversight, ensuring indulgences were no longer a source of financial scandal, but a tool for spiritual growth. The Council also addressed the behaviour of priests. It recognised that some clergy were poorly trained or living far from their parishes, so it mandated better education through seminaries, schools specifically for training priests, and enforced rules like celibacy and residency. Bishops were tasked with overseeing these changes, making sure priests served their communities faithfully. And it didn't stop there. The Council clarified Catholic teachings to counter Protestant critiques. For example, it reaffirmed that salvation comes from both faith and works, as we read in James 2:14-26. Faith without works is dead. It also upheld the 7 sacraments, like the Eucharist, which Jesus instituted. See, John 6:53-58. These clarifications gave the Church a stronger foundation to stand on. Next, let's talk about the papacy. Before the Reformation, some popes had been more like politicians than spiritual leaders. Nepotism, which is appointing relatives to high position, literally their nephews, was a big problem, and it damaged the Church's credibility. After the Reformation, popes like Paul III and Pius IV took action. They worked to reduce nepotism, though it wasn't fully eliminated, and encouraged future popes to focus on spiritual leadership. To enforce this, the Church relied on the example set by those reforming popes, Paul III, for instance, calling the Council of Trent, showing a commitment to change. Pius IV ensured its decisions were implemented. The idea was simple but powerful. If the Pope lived humbly and faithfully, others would follow. It was a slow process, but it marked a shift towards a more Christ-like leadership. Another key measure was the creation of new religious orders, especially the Jesuits, or the Society of Jesus, founded by Ignatius of Loyola. The Jesuits focused on education, intellectual rigour, and missionary work. They opened schools to train both clergy and lay people, and they spread the gospel to places like Asia and the Americas. The churches supported the Jesuits by giving them official approval and resources. Their work wasn't just about defending Catholicism, it was about breathing new life into it. And I think we can find their dedication inspiring because it shows how the church responded to the Reformation with action, not just words. Now we need to talk about some more controversial measures. The church strengthened the Inquisition and created the Index of Forbidden Books. The Inquisition was an institution to investigate and punish heresy, and the index banned books deemed dangerous to the faith, like some Protestant writings. These steps were enforced through church courts and papal authority. Bishops and inquisitors monitored communities, and the index guided what Catholics could read. And I'm going to be honest, these methods raise tough questions today. They were meant to protect the faithful, but they sometimes led to fear and division. Still, they really do show how seriously the church took the Reformation's challenge. So what does this all mean? The Catholic Church responded to the Reformation with concrete changes. The Council of Trent reformed indulgences and clergy, popes worked to curb nepotism, and the Jesuits revitalized the faith, and the Inquisition aimed to safeguard doctrine. These were not perfect solutions, but they show a church willing to change. And I think that's a message of hope. It tells us that even when we stumble, whether as a church or in our own lives, renewal is possible. Christianity is about second chances, about third chances, about fourth chances. It's about growing closer to God through effort and grace. As Jesus said, I am with you always to the end of the age, Matthew 28:20. That's a promise we can hold on to, no matter where we are on our journey. Thank you for joining me today. If this video spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need hope. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you.